When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Samsung big screen we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Time for that upgrade to an HD 3D web-enabled Samsung TV. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Hi, I'm John Mallis. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this day, the last day of the year here on the showroom floor of 2014. You're watching Connect with Me live on Comcast, channel 187, 43.6 and 13.1. And today we'll talk a little bit about the holiday blues and how to beat the holiday blues, and we'll talk about depression. 436-ME-TV option 11 if you want to call in. We have an open line here on the last day of 2014.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
And we're glad to be back here on the last day of the year watching Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno, of course, live on Comcast, channel 187, 43.6 and 13.1. And later on, you can watch the replay if you want at 2 o'clock this afternoon at 13.6 and 8 o'clock on 13.5. That would be Biz TV. But for now, you're watching us live here on Comcast. And the telephone number is 436-ME-TV option 11. Obviously, I wish all of you out there Happy New Year, good health. To you all. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. We're going to talk about that today to a certain extent because we're going to talk about mental health and depression. What is depression? You know, we were talking about this before the program started today, and you know, years ago it was really taboo not to bring up depression, or to say that you were depressed, or to bring it up at the kitchen table or in a conversation at work. But now it's very much commonplace, and especially this time of year, a lot of people get depressed. They have the holiday blues because they may not have family, they may not have friends, they may be sick, they might be wheelchair bound, homebound, housebound, whatever the case may be. Remember about 35, 40 years ago, the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest came out. And it starred Jack Nicholson. It was one of his biggest hits, and it really kind of vaulted his career into stardom at that time. But the focus of that movie was mental health, mental illness. You might recall the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Here's a small clip.
How about it, you creeps, you lunatics, mental defectives? Let's hear it for Bull Goose Randall back in action. Nice shirt, Chesaroo. Look at the faces on you. Look at you. The Phoebes Brigade, you ginglings. The Mental Defective League in formation. How are you, Nurse Ratched? I'm happy to be back.
We're happy to have you back, Randall.
The focus of that movie was certainly mental illness in a mental hospital starring Jack Nicholson. And remember, back in the 70s, it wasn't all that common to talk about depression or mental illness or shock treatment, so to speak, or having the holiday blues, especially during Christmas, Easter, or any holiday like Thanksgiving. So now, live in our studio to talk about this is Peter Nazaretian. He is a licensed family and marriage therapist. He is also a national board certified counselor. So if you are sitting at home right now feeling the holiday blues, call in, ask a question. We'll go over depression. He is obviously the expert. He'll talk about it in detail and what to do to try to beat the holiday blues. Our telephone number here is 436-ME-TV, option 11. If you've got the blues, call in today. We're back with our program here on the last day of 2014.
Ladies' Night was started in his honor. Bar stools pulled themselves out for him. The only thing Chuck Norris is afraid of is her. Cheers is the most memorable bar in the world. You may not always watch comedy, but when you do, watch Cheers.
MeTV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
All right, back here on the program on the last day of 2014, talking about depression and the holiday blues, and it really is a serious topic today. Don't mean to go out on 2014 on a downer, so we're going to try to, talk about depression in a positive way as much as we possibly can. Peter Nazaretian is here. Hi, Peter. Good morning.
Good
Happy
morning,
New
John.
Year.
Thank you very much. Wonderful to be here. Appreciate it.
It's good to see you too. So we don't want to be too much of a downer here today, but we do want to examine depression and why people get depressed. And it's very common this time of year, right?
Extremely, yeah. Any holidays that bring awareness to people being together, families, gatherings, things like that, certainly brings out that. And you might feel this is kind of odd. Being around our family, wouldn't that be a time for being uplifted? Wouldn't that be a time to have joy and happiness? Oh gosh, the whole family's gathering. Oddly enough, here's an interesting statistic for you. The biggest single day of domestic violence in this country is Super Bowl Sunday. Number 2 is Thanksgiving. You would think that that's one of those traditional holidays. We're in that sort of Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's block right now.
Yeah.
You would think that would be a time when people would be thrilled. The reality is that most people don't really enjoy their families that much for a variety of reasons, which we don't have to discuss here. But they really don't. So they get down, they get uncomfortable, they start going off on each other. So unfortunately, gatherings of families and groups like that tends to bring out the negative, and depression is one of those.
So here's what I'm hearing. In the monologue I talked about, if you have the holiday blues and you're alone, you have no family, you have no friends, maybe you're wheelchair bound, that doesn't necessarily put you in a category of being depressed, because you can be depressed and you can still have plenty of family, plenty of friends, you can have your health, and yet you can still be depressed during the holidays, even with tons of family members around you?
Absolutely. Well, it is said that often the loneliest person is the one who's lonely in the crowd. I'm around my family and washed in the love of my family, and yet somehow I have this funk that we call depression. And it is a very real thing. A lot of people, and this is very difficult for people who are depressed, when people are sort of tired of seeing them be blue and sad, and they say, well, just snap out of it. God, you're being a downer, snap out of it. You think, well, if I could have snapped out of this, don't you think I would? Nobody wants to have it.
Yes.
It's a chemical reaction.
So you could be sitting across the table from your uncle, your cousin, your all of your relatives, and you could be the lone wolf.
Absolutely.
And sitting there being depressed through Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, New Year's, whatever the case may be. So
faking it.
It may not have anything to do with the lack of family, then, is what you're saying.
Not at all. Not at all. It's a chemical reaction. Real quick, let's maybe the viewers would be interested to find out what is depression.
Okay.
Technically speaking. In our brain, we have about 200 billion neurosynapses in our brain. You have enough electricity in your brain right now to run a 600-watt microwave oven. The brain talks to itself by sending electrical impulses along the neural pathways, and it jumps across what we call the synaptic cleft and triggers the various areas of the brain to blink your eyes or wave your hand or lift your foot. If the electricity isn't there, and serotonin is the natural hormone in the brain that carries electricity. If the serotonin level drops, electricity does not make the jump. And therefore you have this thick, stuck, numb, depressed feeling. And you're trying very hard.
So the lack of serotonin is what does it?
Serotonin. Now, I won't get into the details of where does it go. It actually hides in the neurosynapses, and antidepressants simply block the ability for it to hide and puts it in there.
Is that a correct description? Depression is
yeah.
a mood disorder
Yeah.
that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the many symptom reactions from depression. In reality, it's just a matter of the electricity isn't connecting the dots. You have somebody who's depressed, for example, who lays in the Barker lounger all day long, and by 6 o'clock at night they're exhausted because the brain actually works 4 times harder trying to drive that electricity across the synaptic cleft, but it won't go. The vehicle that carries electricity, the serotonin, is not there.
What can you do to snap out of it?
There is nothing to snap out of it. That's why the advent of antidepressants was so important, because what it really did was put more electricity in the synaptic cleft by reestablishing the serotonin. So that's from a clinical standpoint. Now, can people just be blue, have a bad day, you know, be sad a little bit because something has happened? Sure.
Is that normal?
Sure. Sure, you know, grandma dies, your dog gets run over, you're getting audited, or, you know, whatever it might be, and, you know, the serotonin level drops temporarily, you get a little blue, get in a funk, but then it builds back up again. For people who have clinical depression, which is really what we're talking about, that level of serotonin is never where it needs to be.
Do we know why the serotonin is not there?
Much like other genetic factors, clinical depression is a genetic predisposition toward low serotonin. Women, oddly, make less than men, which is why more women are depressed than men.
And what can you do to replenish that serotonin?
The only thing you can do in terms of chemistry is to put an antidepressant on board.
Okay.
And which is, and some people resist that. Oh, I don't want to take pills. I don't want to feel that. Well, the reality is that your brain is not working the way it's supposed to.
But is there a pill that do they make a pill that contains serotonin? Not really.
No,
huh?
no. What it really does is the serotonin goes and hides in the neurosynapses, and so what we do is we block the neurosynapses.
I see.
The pill that you take, like a Prozac, for example, simply blocks the entrance. The serotonin can't go hide. It has to stay in the synaptic cleft and therefore carry the electricity. Pretty basic.
Okay. All right. Let's put up on the screen. We've got 7 topics to talk about in terms of depression. We'll put those up now. We'll talk about them one at a time as we look at them. Holiday depression. Is this more common to be depressed during the holidays than any other time of year?
I think so, because as you were talking about earlier, more people. And, you know, the family's coming around. Everybody expects to see everybody in a good mood and the festivities and whatnot.
Right.
And if a person is depressed, they're having to fake it. Or just be depressed and be the downer, and nobody wants to see that. So they're in this funk, and, you know, so they fake it, put a wan smile on their face, and, you know, try to look nice. But it's very, very difficult. Plus, it's more exhausting. That energy.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to continue talking about those 7 topics in a moment here. We're talking with Peter Nazaretian. He is a licensed family and marriage therapist, national board certified counselor. By the way, if you want to reach Peter, his telephone number, Monday through Friday, 252-9700, or you can go to the website at figgardencounseling.com. Our telephone number here is 436-MeTV option 11. And don't be bashful. If you have a problem, if you have a question, you don't have to give your name. You just want Peter to answer one of your holiday depression questions. Feel free to call in. No problem here. You're not going to be criticized or judged in any way, shape, or form. We're back with our program. Connect with me in just a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
It's almost time.
Now we'll find out once and for all about Clark Kent and Superman.
Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a TV show.
Yes, but who is he? What's his name?
He's Superman.
Golly, Clark, won't that be wonderful seeing Superman?
Fighting a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and television the Me TV way.
No one can do the things that Superman does.
The Adventures of Superman.
Now on Me TV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
We're back here on our program today on December the 31st, 2014. Can't believe that the year is already gone and passed by, 2015, in and around the corner. Hey, by the way, I just want to mention, because this is really important. Did you know about this new gas tax that's going into effect starting tomorrow? It's by law. The California Air Resources Board is going to decide how much to increase the gas tax, either by anywhere from 17 to 70 cents per gallon. So if you're low on gas, tonight before midnight is the time to fill up your tank, because tomorrow it's going to go up. Just keep that in mind. One other crazy law that's going to go into effect, well, not until July, unless they put a referendum on the ballot, and that would be the banning of plastic bags in California. That starts in July. So one of the many 900 new laws on the books starting tomorrow. We're here with Peter Nazaretian. Hey, we're talking about depression and the holiday blues. 436 MeTV option 11. I do want to put up the descriptions then, the 7 topics that we want to talk about in terms of depression. We talked about holiday depression already. Number 2, the expectations. What are you talking about when you're talking about expectations? What do people expect?
Well, we're tying that into the holiday depression. Expectation is we're going to be in a good mood. We're going to be upbeat. It's going to be a positive experience. The kids are going to be delighted. The adults are going to love each other. But what happens? Yeah, I know. What happens if those expectations go unmet? What if we're having financial problems? What if they're having relationship problems? What if you
get into an argument with your father-in-law?
Absolutely, and all that kind of family stuff that goes on. There's the expectation is this is a very happy, upbeat time of year, and the reality is, as we talked earlier about the the domestic violence on Thanksgiving, this is not necessarily the happiest time of year for people. It's just supposed to be.
That's shocking. Where does that stat come from? Domestic violence on Thanksgiving is and the Super Bowl.
Yeah, number 2.
2 days.
Yeah,
1 and 2, right? What's the one? A Super Bowl?
Super Bowl's number 1. That makes some sense. People drink and get rabid about their team, and Thanksgiving's a little bit of a shock because that's one of those Norman Rockwell moments.
Well, yeah, you're supposed to be thankful to whoever, maybe a higher power, to what you have. Family, friends, health. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say 2 things. One is thank you for these extended interviews. It's very rare to find them on TV or other sources. You do a great service for the Central Valley by providing that. Second, on the depression side, not to be cynical, but if talking doesn't really help the person and it's all chemical, how does talking help? Does that make sense?
Yes. Let me see if I can understand you. If it's a matter of taking medication, why have therapy? Here's the reason. The stats for many years have indicated that both talk therapy and medication individually are not as effective as together, and here's why. You're depressed and you're in a funk, maybe for years, maybe genetic disposition. You take the medication, and now you can think more clearly. It's like the socks being pulled out of your head. Oh, gosh, it's a lighter, brighter feeling. It's not exactly antidepressed, but it's a lighter, brighter feeling, and now you can think more clearly. Electricity is flowing. The problem is, now that you can think more clearly, what are you thinking? Because if you still think that you're bad, wrong, stupid, incompetent, worthless, dirty, and ashamed, you're just having stinking thinking with amazing clarity.
Where does this thinking come from?
When you're depressed, things don't look so good. I don't like my life. I don't have energy. I can't go out. People are going to parties. I don't want to go.
And this happens to highly successful people, doesn't it? Robin Williams comes to mind.
Great example. Who comes out and is kinetic and energizes us with his frenetic energy, and yet he himself struggled. So yes, and there's many. Mike Wallace in 60 Minutes.
That's right.
There's a number of people who are classically been depressed. Mike Wallace used to have, before he went to dinner with people, would have to walk around the block once just to work up enough energy to go to sit down and have dinner with somebody. He was so depressed. On the air, you'd never know, of course, but worked hard at that.
2 brilliant people. Does depression affect brilliant people more than it does the average person?
The stats don't necessarily indicate that. I think with incredibly smart people, you open up other doors of expectations. As long as we're talking about those, you're going to be successful, that you're going to be happy, you're going to have a good relationship, you're going to be a great dad or mom, as the case may be. Not necessarily the case. Genetic, in the family, if there's a genetic predisposition toward any kind of mental illness, including depression, it can affect anybody in the family as it goes down, or not. I've had 4 kids in the family, 2 have it, 2 don't. It's, it's just that genetic thing.
Yeah. With highly successful people and brilliant people, like you said, Mike Wallace and Robin Williams, does it have anything to do with expectations like we talked about? Because these people are so brilliant, so creative in their craft. They create something so incredible within their world. Now you got to climb the next step and create something even more brilliant, and then even more brilliant. And sometimes that goal, that lofty goal, isn't that almost unrealistic to a certain extent?
A lot of pressure.
And so does that enter into it?
I think so. When you're pressure, kind of like a salesperson whose quota keeps going up every year. Does it make you more anxious, more uncomfortable? I got to keep producing. I had a great year, but no, next year you got to do more.
Have to keep producing more and more
yeah.
and better and better.
Yeah, and if you don't, somebody waiting behind you to do it. So yeah, that can.
So can that bring you down mentally?
Well, when you're putting that much extra energy out during the day, let's say to do whatever you have to do to achieve, when you go home at night, you're more exhausted. I mean, there's a bigger drop. So yes, it can be, the more you have to pump up, the more the natural state is going to be down.
And with a guy like Robin Williams, if he's not on, he more than likely could be depressed because he's got to be on to stay happy.
Well, Robin Williams, I think, amongst us, we think he was probably more bipolar, and depression certainly is a piece of that, and that's very difficult.
What is bipolar, by the way?
Bipolar is when you're having manic phases and watching Robin Williams run around in circles and, just come up with his lines a million times. In fact, you and I were talking about how when you watch Robin Williams on a talk show or something, it's like you don't dare laugh because you'll miss 4 lines. You just stand there almost transfixed as he flies in circles, and at the end of it you go, oh, God. Well, it exhausts us to watch him. Imagine what it's like to be him. And to go out there and put all that energy out there, I mean, like anything else, you deplete the tank. The tank's empty.
So it's like letting air out of a balloon after the show is over.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're talking with Peter Nazaretian. He is a licensed family and marriage therapist, national board certified counselor. We're glad he's here today to try to explain some of these problems with depression. Bipolar, of course, is very common now. And when we come back, we'll go over the 7 topics and talk extensively more about depression in detail. And, a lot of us get the holiday blues this time of year, but, you try to limit it because, sometimes we're depressed about family members who've passed on. We'll talk about that too. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Don't be ashamed to call in and ask a question. We're here for you on this day.
A top secret location. It's the spies who love me, bringing together MeTV's top super spies to fight evil at a memorable moment's notice. They're daring.
That's right.
Brave.
Now what are we gonna do?
The best we can.
Suave.
Does that apply to me, Oscar?
Possibly.
And smart.
The old finger in the gun trick.
Maxwell Smart.
MeTV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Back here on the program, 436-ME-TV, option 11, urging you to call in if you have any kind of question about depression or the holiday blues. Peter Nazaretian is here. And Peter, let me ask you, is there a big difference between having the holiday blues on this side and, say, depression on this side? They're not one and the same, are they?
No, I think, as we talked earlier, the holidays bring out, exacerbates it a bit more, focuses it a bit more because we're all supposed to be so happy. But somebody who's depressed is depressed all the time. It just gets a little more difficult at the holiday time.
So it becomes a lifestyle?
Because the expectations of perk up, be nice. Everybody wants to be, perky. And it's not realistic. You do have, sometimes we have family members that pass away or things, happen, or financial issues or relationship problems, whatever. It does bring us down. And if we have clinical depression, it's always there. But can we have a bad day? Can we have the blues? Can we be in a funk? Sure.
Natural?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Ebbs and flows of natural ups and downs. When it becomes too dramatic or we stay there too long, depression.
Yeah. So it's totally, we have a phone call coming in.
Wonderful.
I'll ask you this on the other side of the phone call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah. My question is not more depression, just how I deal with family issues. I mean, I'm not a real people person, but I do go out every once in a while. And when I do, it's like, okay, last Christmas, I went out, I visited my parents, my family was there, and the first thing they tell me is, look who came out of their cave. And that doesn't make me feel good. And then now I'm doing it tomorrow. I mean, it's New Year's Day. My parents got a party going on. They want me there. I don't like to deal with that. Now even my own nephews are starting to talk to me like that. I do venture out of my home, you know what I mean? I visit my nephews, I visit them all the time, but nobody ever comes and visits me. I don't know why that is. I mean, I have a nice home. I have it, you know what I mean? It's me and my wife. We are childless. We've been together for 19 years, childless. Maybe that's the reason they don't visit us, because we don't have children. But, I mean, I just don't get it. And tomorrow I got to go do this. And I'm dreading the holidays because of that, because of the way I'm treated, the way I'm talked to.
Before Peter answers the question, let me ask you a question, caller. Why are you still there? Oh, he hung up. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it goes back to expectations. You know, I think it's very interesting that he said, oh, you've come out of your cave. Well, that tells you that the family sees this caller as being somewhat reclusive, someone who's not socially available on a regular basis. So once in a while you come out, oh, good, you come out of your cave, it's Christmas or it's New Year's. So just understand that, you know, not being social on a regular basis, which everybody is supposed to be, expectations, you know, be in a good mood every day, call everybody, get on Twitter, get on Facebook, you know, connect with the world. And if you don't do that, something's wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. You want to stay at home. You want to just be with your wife. You want to not necessarily hang around your family all the time. Nothing wrong with that. But when you hear those come out of your cave comments, it makes us feel less, makes us feel like we're not doing something. The expectation isn't being met.
I just wonder, you know, I don't know if you can, you could just hear by the tone of his voice or maybe by what he said. It seemed to me that he felt uncomfortable going to his parents' house. Like, tomorrow my parents are having this party, I have to go there, and he didn't seem all that happy about going.
Well, when the people say, oh, you come out of your cave, well, finally you decide to show up at a family event, well, right away we're in a hole. Like, we're not okay. We did something wrong. We're not as good as everybody else. Well, nobody wants to have that vibe coming at them.
Yeah.
So, you know, that may be one of the reasons that, shoot, I don't go very much because I always get that. Now, what are the answers? Well, number one, be more social, but that may not be what that person wants. You know, I don't necessarily want to see my parents more than once or twice a month or once or twice a year, and that's okay. If you don't
Does that
want
mean
to.
there's something wrong?
No, not necessarily at all. Let's digress here for 1 second. In 1951, there was a great fake perpetrated in this country. It was called television. Invented in 1946, by 1952, 60% of the households had a television. And the three major
black and white.
Oh, yeah. Three major manufacturers of television, Admiral, DuMont, and Motorola, all had the same catchphrase, window on the world.
Yeah.
You sat in front of this big box with a concave screen about that big. You know, you put a couple of pieces of tinfoil on the rabbit ears, adjusted them, sat in that special chair, got just the right angle, and there, a little bit snowy, but you were watching a window on the world. It wasn't a movie, it wasn't a vaudeville show, it wasn't a radio. This was actually what other people were doing. And we thought everybody else was Father Knows Best, Donna Reed, Leave It to Beaver. Well, we couldn't talk about our family because that wasn't our family. Everybody else was doing this. Ooh, we better be quiet. So everybody pulled back. Norman Rockwell, who had a series of paintings in the Saturday Evening Post of Americana, most of those scenes never really happened. But they looked fabulous. We all thought that's what everybody else was doing. That was what America was supposed to be. Too bad our family isn't that good. It wasn't until the 1970s when Archie Bunker and the first Roseanne show came out that we actually had prototypes that were like our parents. Archie Bunker was my dad. You know,
Those were our parents.
I can relate to that now.
Wow, they actually have someone on television that's like my family.
Father Knows Best. I don't know that guy.
No.
You know, he would come home from work, you know, from, hi, honey, I'm home, go to the closet, hang up his coat, who does that, and put on his coat that he wore at home, which was the same coat except elbow patches.
Even Dick Van Dyke was a little bit unrealistic.
Absolutely.
To a certain extent.
Sure.
And many of those programs back in the 50s and 60s were not representative of what our families looked like back in those days.
And of course that makes us depressed because we're not like everybody else. Well, it turns out everybody else wasn't like that, but we didn't know that.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
Let me ask you something. Why was it taboo so many years ago to just leave depression on the table and you can't talk about it? Let's not talk about depression. Let's put it in the closet and maybe talk about it behind closed doors. Can't bring it out in the open.
Absolutely.
Why?
Well, back in the, let's say, we didn't really have any kind of medication until 1985 when Prozac first came out. Before that, you just locked Aunt Clara in the basement when people came over if she was acting out in some way or being in a funk. We didn't know. So it was awareness.
All right. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, first of all, Happy New Year to both of you. I'm listening to what you're saying. I remember when, I was born in Texas, small town, and in that little town, only 3 families had a TV. That was like in 1952, 53. And when my grandma, because she's the one that raised me, got me my first TV, that thing was huge. It was just black and white, and the first show that I got to see when I turned on that TV was I Love Lucy.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
I was so excited. And another show that I got to see for the first time was the Ed Sullivan Show. Got to see Elvis Presley for the first time. So that's been quite a few years, huh?
Right.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions about depression, or do you get the holiday blues?
Well, let me tell you, I do have it. I've been experiencing for the last couple of days, mainly because, see, I'm blind. I don't get out as much as I used to before I lost my eyesight. And New Year's Eve, Christmas comes around. I want to be around and get outside and join the festivities. I can't do that. It doesn't, how can I say it? It's not the same when you can't see. Because if you're blind and you're in a crowded room and there's people around you talking at the same time, you know, it kind of gets you, I don't know, you panic. It's not like when you have your eyesight, somebody's talking, you turn around, look at them, you listen to what they're saying. It's not the same.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I have been, like I said, for the last couple of days, I've been feeling it kind of down, kind of depressed, but I gotta get it over it, you know.
All right. Well, maybe Peter can give you some advice right now.
Well, thank you very much, caller. I appreciate your calling in and sharing that with us. And it is particularly difficult when you have a physical disability, especially something like blindness or deafness that really removes you from the mainstream of what's going around us on an everyday. You can't help but feel a little bit disconnected. And disconnection can make you feel a little bit down. You know, I'm not like everybody else. I don't have the same ability to enjoy other things like everybody else. There's a certain not good enough quality there.
What can she do to make herself feel better?
A couple of things. Obviously, you tuned into the media. Thank you for your comment about television. I Love Lucy. Everybody loved Lucy.
Yeah.
You know, surrounding yourself with TV, with radio, with music, things that lift your spirits, make you feel good, things that are still available, but you know, don't need eyesight for.
How about friends?
Yeah, connecting with friends is a beautiful thing, and there's probably support groups for blind people who are. You can go on a bus trip, or you can go see a concert or something. So connecting with people would be a huge piece of that.
Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi, I was calling because I wanted to ask a question to the psychiatrist.
Okay.
I have a twin who is bipolar and is severely depressed, and I now have high anxiety, and you know, I have to see a psychiatrist, and I'm really afraid because I've heard a lot about Prozac and other medicines that make you have dreams or things like that. So would they start me out at a low dose? And is my sister being bipolar, could that connect with me also?
Those are both great questions. Thank you for calling in. If your sister's been diagnosed with bipolar, you're showing some anxiety signs. Genetically, it's entirely possible that she could have bipolar and you don't, but you may have picked up an anxiety component. And as far as medication goes, we can't, you know, you can medicate for depression, and those medications will not give you those kinds of dreams you're talking about. That is more associated with sleeping medications like Ambien, something like that. Prozac really has very few side effects at all, so don't be concerned about taking the Prozac. And yes, they will start you out at a very low dose and check in with you on 30-day increments. How's it doing? How do you feel? If it's, you know, it's good, but it's not quite enough, let's bump it up a little bit. We'll find that sweet spot. Unfortunately, it's not like taking 2 aspirin and getting rid of a headache. It's a little bit trial and error. So bear with it, bear with the side effects, which are usually minor and go away within a couple of weeks. If you can just tolerate that, you'll get to therapeutic levels in 4 to 6 weeks. Then you can decide if it's working for you, increase it a bit more. You'll know it's like wearing a pair of pants in the store. When you put them on, if they fit, you know it.
Real quick, we got to go to break, but you said she could have an anxiety component of bipolar. What does that mean?
Well, the thing that creates bipolar, depression, anxiety all come from the same place. So it can veer off depending on what it is. So here you have a twin with bipolar, but you don't. You pick up a little bit of the anxiety component. Could be OCD. Could be something like that.
Okay. So, Hey, another caller. Let's take the call, and then we'll go to break. Caller, you're on the air with Peter Nazaretian. Go ahead.
Hi, John. Happy New Year to the both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is, and I agree with some of the other callers, the holidays does get very stressful. I think one thing that for me has always been feeling that I'm going to be critiqued, or other people are going to be very critical, including my own family.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I don't look forward to. Can you tell me a little bit about? I've always trying to battle my depression whenever I felt down with either sports or my faith, and that's always seemed to help me feel more uplifted. And so, can you talk a little bit? Is there any scientific studies relating, sports or athletics activity with combating with depression? And that's my question. I'll take the answer over the air.
Thank you very much for calling in. When you're talking about sports, and I'm going to put that in more of a generic category of sports or entertainment or something, when there's something that floats your boat, something that you love to do, something that you love to be involved with, that gives you a little bit of energy. That kind of jazzes you up a little bit. And that's really what you're talking about, is lifting your spirits. Family can do that sort of thing, but oftentimes family don't understand it. And by the way, for those of you whose family kind of give you a little bit of a judgment or talk to you about, what's wrong with you? Why don't you snap out of this? First of all, if you could snap out of it, wouldn't you? But it's about them. They're uncomfortable because somehow your not being upbeat is making them a little. I'm anxious, so why don't you change so I can be better? So realize their comments to you are not about you so much as about themselves. Yeah. I want to see you feel better, so I'm anxious that you don't. And of course, we fake it. Well, let me perk up a little bit so you'll feel better. It's like when somebody ever been standing around someplace and somebody says, "Smile."
Yeah.
Smile.
Yeah.
Half you wants to bop them, and the other half puts on that little smile to make them feel better.
Yeah.
So we take care of each other.
Sports can be uplifting or whatever.
Yeah.
Music.
Absolutely.
Whatever.
Sports, whatever.
Yeah.
Find something that floats your boat. That'll make you feel better.
Well, I know about family members being critical. I used to, when I used to walk into a family event, friends would say, "You're not married yet? What's wrong with you?" I got married late in life. Oh my gosh, I can still hear that in my head. 436-ME-TV, option 11. We're back in a moment.
Frigidaire. It means the first refrigerator. It means a history of innovations that help make your home life better. And now we introduce the new Frigidaire French door refrigerator with over 100 ways to organize for maximum flexibility. Built with adjustable flip-up and slide under shelving and stackable crisper drawers. It's the refrigerator that flexes to fit it all, no matter what your day will bring. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Hey, we're back here on the program on Connect with Me, talking about depression, and we're here with Peter Nazaretian. Caller, you're there, and we'll take your call now. And what's your question?
I heard Herman Cain say that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yes, well, we've heard that before. It is, and that's difficult because when someone is so depressed that they feel like, I just want to check out is the only answer, that's an extremely difficult place to be. When you get to that point, it truly is, it's genetic. Yeah. Most of us have bad days. We get blue, we get in a funk, something happens, but we get out of it. When it's that pervasive, you're probably looking at medical intervention.
What do you do when you show up at a family dinner like Thanksgiving and somebody says, "Where'd you get those pants? Why are you wearing those pants?" Or, you missed our card game last week. What happened? Or, or why aren't you married yet? Or what should your response be? How should you respond?
Well, it depends on the question. If it's a lighthearted question, "Hey, we missed you at the card game last night. Where were you?" "Oh, I was watching a movie or something."
Yeah.
Toss it off, no big deal. But the implication of what you're saying is there's a criticism.
Yeah, they're critical of you.
You're not there. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you married? Why aren't you wearing certain clothes? Why aren't you coming to the events?
Yeah.
And again, that's more about the people who are asking the question. They're uncomfortable because you weren't there. Well, I missed it. Sorry. Is really a perfectly fine answer.
Why do people care if you're married or not? Why do they care what colored pants you're wearing?
Well, in the case of marriage, I'm not sure, but in the case of marriage, I almost wonder if I have to put up with this marriage thing. Why don't you? So,
what do they care about what color pants you're wearing?
Yeah, they really don't. It's just a conversation starter. Sometimes it's a need to be critical.
All right, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, I would like to know, how do you deal with somebody who is depressed, even perhaps suicidal?
Great question. By the way, thank you all for calling in. These are great questions, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do it this morning. It is very difficult because there's a tendency to want to make them feel better. Oh, cheer up. It'll be okay. It's fine. The depressed person already knows this. They're depressed. They don't need to have, somebody glad-handing them. They realize they're down.
How do you deal with it, though?
Well, when you talk to people, sometimes, number one, you validate them. It must be really hard for you this time of year to not feel good and to be sad and uncomfortable when everybody else is having so much fun. That must be really hard. Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
Sometimes with people with depression, they're so anxious to sort of prick them up, snap out of it, get out of it. It's like, you don't understand. I can't snap out of this.
Yeah.
If I could, I would. Rather go the other way, validate them. It must be really hard.
Help them feel better.
Yeah.
Say positive things.
Sure, and accept the fact that they don't.
Yeah, or your hair looks great today. You look wonderful today. I love the dress you're wearing.
If you can find some positives, don't be fake, because
but be complimentary.
Yeah, if they're in a funk, then they are. Gosh, it must be tough. Would you like to open the blinds, get a little light in here? I mean, you can be gently, but for them, they may say, I like it dark.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
All right, let's put these 7 topics up one more time. 1 through 7, we're going to go through these, I know. And so the days of, before I get into the days of showing up at a holiday event and throwing grandma in the closet because you think she's goofy are over, right?
I hope so.
All right, let's start with number 3. Number 3, Peter, go ahead and pick it up. Co-parenting during the holidays.
Well, this is particularly difficult. What happens, for example, if 2 parents are together, then that's kind of a nice, holiday moment. But what happens if there's a divorce? What happens if the separation? And one parent, hypothetically, can afford to buy the kids a lot of gifts, and the other one's on a very tight budget and cannot. It's a chance for one parent to look really, really good. Swarm the kids with gifts. Well, it's Christmas. You want to give the kids something, don't you? You shouldn't have to, the kids shouldn't be deprived. And the other parent feels horrible because they can't provide. They're just getting by. So that difference can really divide the family, and even more so at Christmas time, because one parent can afford to lavish them a little bit.
So what do you do in that case? Not too much.
Well, depending on the communication. Again, with depression, it's all about relationships and communication. If you can communicate with the other person and say, do me a favor, can you keep it down to a dull where I can't afford much and I don't want the kids to get thrown off. Oh, okay. But a lot of parents...
It's cooperation.
When they're divorced, they're just going at each other. So, oh, really, that bothers you? Good, I'll buy more.
Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi. I called earlier. I was one calling about... coming out of his cave and stuff.
Okay, the cave guy.
Good to see you.
Yeah, but my question now is about my wife. She, as you heard earlier, we've been married 19 years.
19 years,
together longer than that. We're childless, but every year she's bought Barbie dolls for, the child that we're maybe going to have, but we never did. But this year, now she wants to give everything away. Should I let her do that? I mean, is that a sign of depression, or is she giving up?
That's a good question, and without talking to her, it's a little hard to know for sure. I think it's kind of dear in a way that she would buy these Barbie dolls in anticipation of having a family, and maybe after 19 years she's realizing this is probably not going to happen. So, let's give these away maybe to people who could use them, who do have kids, do have families.
Charity.
So in that sense, if, I don't see your need to hang on to these and somebody else could benefit, great. If it's, well, I'm just giving up and my life is crap and I'll just give these dolls away, well, that's something else.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, so I'd have to talk to her about that. But it sounds like she's just wanting to say, I think it's time to just move on and open a new chapter. It's just going to be us, and let's just be happy with that. That's okay.
Back to the 7 topics here. I think we're on number 5 already. Or no, 4. Family relationships.
Sure.
We've kind of talked about that.
Yeah, that's that whole thing of, we're supposed to be happy at this time of year, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas, and sometimes we're just not, because frankly, we don't like Uncle Roy who wants to fight after 3 beers, or Cousin Harry who falls asleep in his mashed potatoes.
Put that up again. The 7 descriptions. Holiday budget stress. We kind of touched on that with co-parenting, but the stress of buying presents and how much do you spend for that special person?
Oh, yeah. I think this is what I see a lot of, is people buy. And what happens if you buy this wonderful present for somebody because you're trying to be good and nice, and they don't give you anything back, or they give you something, not worth nearly as much. And we have that, well, is this how much you care about me? Is this how much I should spend? All of a sudden it takes it away from the charity and the giving and the spirit of the season.
So that extra pressure and stress can throw you into depression a little bit?
Yeah. Makes you feel not, if I can't afford it, everybody else is giving lavish gifts, I'm going to feel a little bit less than. That's not good. All right.
We'll go back to these 7 topics here, and what number are we on now? Number 6, hidden anniversary.
Hidden anniversary is an interesting one. What happens if your favorite grandpa died on December 13th?
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, Christmas is tainted. We can't have a good Christmas because Grandpa died at Christmas time.
My mother, by the way, died on December 15th. So there you go.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
And my guess is, no offense, but it may have thrown a bit of a pall over Christmas for a year or two. Because that was,
even now, it's kind of,
hidden anniversaries, divorces, seminal events, operations that nobody else knows about, but when that time of the year comes around, I remember when I worked in the psych hospital for many years, talking about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, a few days before Halloween, we'd all sort of, okay, ramp up because we're going to start getting an influx of people who Halloween just brings out, some weirdnesses in folks. So there are those hidden anniversaries. Of course, Halloween's not that hidden, but it was for them, that certain things happen, they associate it with it, and oh my goodness, what a rough time of the year. And nobody else knows.
Yeah.
When that divorce is coming around. Yeah.
And the last one, I think we've touched on this for the better part of the program, beating the holiday blues and what to do about that. We've pretty much glossed over that.
There's a holiday blues, and that's an interesting thing we talk about. There is a particular pathology involved with the holidays, might be worth mentioning at this point. It's called SAD, Seasonal Affective Disorder. When the sunshine is less and it gets colder, and for some people this induces a seasonal depression. Not a situational depression, but a seasonal depression. In fact, you might find this interesting. I keep in my office a thing called a Happy Light, goofy name, but it is. And these lights are installed in the walls under the tables of cafes in like Sweden, places where they have a lot of darkness. And the best place to put them is in the back of your knees. So, people will come in, for one example, the long woolen skirts, sit in the cafe, have a cup of coffee, pull their skirt up a little bit so the back of their knees exposed, let that light shine on the back of their knees, and it gives them a little bit of a sun bath. So for 30 minutes or an hour.
That's supposed to make you happy?
They do. It feels better.
It works?
It works, yeah.
Is there such a thing as a happy pill?
Well, people call that Prozac or antidepressants. It really isn't a happy pill because all Prozac, like we were talking about earlier, it just makes it more clear. And that's a lighter, brighter feeling. Not really antidepressed, but it's a lighter, brighter feeling. So no happy pill.
No happy pill. How about the types of depressions? Let's put that up on the screen, and we'll talk about those in detail, if you will. There are 6 different types of depressions that we found. This is according to the Mayo Clinic, by the way. Can you talk about these individually?
Sure. Anxious distress. We talked about the caller that called in with bipolar. Somebody had a bipolar, and they picked up the anxiety component of it. So that can be part of a depression. It's really the pathology there. So anxious and distress leads to depression because it's not where I want to be.
And number 2?
Mixed features. It can be high and low. I do pretty well in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening perhaps. At other times I have a hard time getting going. And then finally in the afternoon I get a couple of good hours, and at night I sink again. So
how about number 3?
Melancholic. The melancholy is a sort of an old term for depression. It's a little more pervasive, a little more serious, a little harder to get out of the funk. That would certainly, I would think, be the genetic predisposition toward clinical depression.
All right. Number 4.
Atypical features. Yeah. I'm depressed. Robin Williams probably did a good job of, he was depressed, but boy, when he was on, would you know he was depressed? He was just flying in circles, coming out a mile a minute. And you'd think, wow, he's in a great mood. He's upbeat. He's fun. I'm drawn to that excitement. And in fact, that made his big cover-up. So atypical is I'm down, but I'm coming across as being very upbeat. Or the other way, I should be very upbeat, but I'm coming across as very down.
So number 4 is the big cover-up, basically.
Yeah, can be. Right.
Number 5.
Tough one. Psychotic features. Number 5. That's when it goes to a certain extent. You go to that family reunion, somebody says, why did you wear those pants? And you go, I hate this crap. You pick up a glass of eggnog and throw it against the wall. And they go, oh, you're having a freak out there. What's going on with that? And, that's so that it acting out.
Yeah. All right. And finally, number 6.
And the seasonal pattern we talked about, SAD, seasonal affective disorder, that really is connected. This is really, depression is real. Seasonal affective disorder is real. We think it has to do with the sunshine, hence the happy light. When people are in climates where they don't get enough sunshine, they do get more depressed.
Yeah, I wish there was a happy pill. Somebody just take a pill and
we'd all
boom.
be taking that thing, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I know. We could be all happy all the time. Hey, we're going to take a break here on Connect with me. Peter Nazaretian is here. By the way, if you want to reach him anytime during the week, Monday through Friday, the number to call him at his office is 250-9700. Or you can go to the website figgardencounseling.com. We still have time left here on the program. 436-MeTV option 11. Don't be bashful. Call in. Happy New Year to all. Back in a moment.
This fall, there is a place familiar and inviting, timeless and warm. Me TV, a place all your own that you can call home.
Hi, honey, I'm home.
This fall, home is where you'll find me.
You mean to tell me that's all there is to it?
That's all.
Me TV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
Frigidaire. It means the first electric refrigerator. The first compact electric range. Now, there's the Frigidaire Gallery Range with Symmetry double ovens. It's designed to cook multiple dishes at multiple temperatures, so you can prepare the entire meal at the same time. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
I misspoke a moment ago. Peter's number is 252-9700. So write that down, get a piece of paper, get a pen, a pencil. 252-9700. You can reach our guest at Peter Nazaretian anytime Monday through Friday or at figgardencounseling.com. Let me ask you before I get to our next graphic here, is there such a term as, and is it a derogatory term to look across the room and say, oh, that guy's a nut? No, I just thought about that.
Well, we all do it. So, you know.
I mean, is that a derogatory thing to say?
Probably, you know, in this.
So what does that mean?
We're in an era of political correctness. So yes, that's probably something, you know, we should be careful.
It's not a good thing to say.
No, but it's such a part of the lexicon that we sort of say it. But yes.
What's the politically correct term now? Depression?
Yeah. Just call it what it is. Just, you know, yeah. I'm a little depressed, a little, you know, I think we would call it blues, bad day, rough patch. You know, but basically it's depression, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Symptoms of depression, 1 through 9. Let's go over these individually. We've got about 8 minutes here, so go through the list here.
Number one, pretty obvious, feelings of sadness and emptiness and unhappiness, and we're not sure where that is because we may be surrounded by family. One of the things we're talking about today is we're you know, wrapped in the warm bosom of our family, and yet we feel disconnected, unhappy, and sad. Angry, irritability. Yeah, sometimes when people are saying, why don't you cheer up? Why don't you snap out of it? You know what? I'll just snap your neck right about now because it can you know, it can irritate us. You know, God, I'm struggling here. You know, be good to me. Loss of interest and pleasure. The fellow was talking about sports, you know, finding something that is pleasurable, is fun, music, sports, activity. You know, it's hard for people to get out sometimes, but, you know, when we start losing that, we disconnect from people, we disconnect from pleasurable activities, we just sort of recede into ourselves. That's a tough one. Sleep disturbances, more or less. People who traditionally have depression sleep more, but not necessarily. They can sleep less too. So that's
what if they're up at night?
Exactly.
That's a classic example,
absolutely,
right?
Walking around feeling depressed and unhappy, and they want to go to bed but they can't. Tiredness or lack of energy. Yeah, if you're not sleeping very well or sleeping sporadically, that's difficult.
Let's interrupt just for a minute here. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, since he touched on the fact of the seasonal depression or SADS or whatever correct terminology, I wanted to ask about the subliminal differences caused between incandescent and fluorescent type lighting. So much of us spend so much time in fluorescent light now, and I've come to realize that those lights don't offer me what I need when it comes to correct lighting. Does he have a comment on this?
That's a good question, and I'm not a lighting expert, so I can't address that. I do know that fluorescent lights oftentimes have that slight variation in intensity, and sometimes people who have certain psychotic disorders can be triggered into seizures with that. So that's
really with the fluorescent lighting.
Yeah, so that can, because it just has a slight variation.
Can that make you depressed?
I don't know about the depression, but I'd be careful about it if you know if there's a predisposition toward having any kind of seizure disorder. The kind of light I'm talking about is not a fluorescent or incandescent. It has 10,000 lumens, but it's not made for it's not a sun lamp. It's not a heat lamp. Those 10,000 lumens are specifically to mimic sunshine, vitamin D, essentially. So
you're talking about the happy light?
Yeah, the happy light, and that's made by Verilux. And you can buy them as little desk models and things you can put in the wall, and they do seem to be effective. I'm not going to say everybody, and it's not magical, but can it help? Absolutely.
Yeah, it can. So you have to be sensitive in terms of the lighting.
Yes, too much brightness. If we're down, turn that off. It's still too bright. Or sometimes the very thing we want is put lights on, open the windows. But people who are depressed frequently want the darkness. So light is difficult.
Wow.
Yeah.
Go back to the symptoms here. I think screen number 2. Yeah, we're number 5.
Yeah. Tiredness or lack of energy. We talked about that. Just kind of a that funk that we get into. We don't have the will to get up and go do things. Changes in appetite. Well, like everything else, it slows down. We don't want to eat, or sometimes we're depressed. We eat too much.
Yeah.
Where we're eating cupcakes and comfort food, and then weight becomes an issue as well. We get depressed about that, and of course, anxiety, agitation, or restlessness, also typical. Lots of times the people around us are expecting us to be perky and upbeat, and so we get a little agitated because they're giving us that pressure.
How common is number 8?
Not that common with depression. Well, I shouldn't say that. Obviously, if somebody's pervasively depressed, death is going to be difficult. But more people who are bipolar kill themselves than depressed.
And just in case for people who can't see the screen and are just listening to the television set, it's number 8 is frequent thoughts of death.
Yeah.
Not too common.
Yeah. I mean, you may think about it. Is it a serious thought for depressed people? Well, sure, for some. But it's more, I'm just in a funk and I'm blue. That's generally where it goes.
Yeah, unexplained physical problems.
Yeah, when we're depressed, there is a tendency to sort of become self-focused. And we're just laying there in a Barca lounger all day long, and my neck hurts, my knee hurts, my back hurts. Well, part of it is you're not moving around, you're not getting good nutrition, you're not getting sunshine. So there are some physical problems, that are directly related to that.
Right.
But also just a lot of time in your hands. Just sit there and think, do I feel this, do I feel that? Sometimes our mind can go away with us.
Do we have time to run that one Robin Williams soundbite? I want to run just a clip of Patch Adams. Robin Williams here playing a doctor in Patch Adams, talking about Robin Williams somewhat today. Let's play that clip and then comment on the other side.
Have you been treating patients, Mr. Adams?
Well, sir, I live with several people. They come and go as they please. I offer them whatever help I can.
Mr. Adams, have you or have you not been treating patients at your ranch?
Everyone who comes to the ranch is a patient, yes. And every person who comes to the ranch is also a doctor.
I'm sorry.
Every person who comes to the ranch is in need of some form of physical or mental help. They're patients. But also every person who comes to the ranch is in charge of taking care of someone else. Whether it's cooking for them, cleaning them, or even a simple task as listening. That makes them doctors. I use that term broadly, gentlemen, but is not a doctor someone who helps someone else? When did the term doctor get treated with such reverence as, oh, right this way, Dr. Smith, or, excuse me, Dr. Scholes, what wonderful foot pads, or, pardon me, Dr. Patterson, but your flatulence has no odor.
What did you get out of that clip?
Well, it is a true story, by the way, Patch Adams, who used humor to help people get out of depression. And Norman Cousins did a thing on beating cancer by watching Marx Brothers movies, whatever, again, going back to our listener who had sports. Whatever floats your boat. If watching funny movies makes you feel good, I Love Lucy, you mentioned earlier, if watching funny shows takes your mind off your things, puts you in a lighter, brighter frame of mind, what's wrong with that?
So humor can help depression?
Absolutely, yeah.
Can it pull people out of that dark, deep hole where they even have thoughts of maybe committing suicide?
I think you have to take that on an individual basis, but I think it absolutely can help. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, sadly, we're out of time here. We really enjoyed the conversation today with Peter Nazaretian, a licensed family and marriage therapist, national board certified counselor, has been practicing for years and years and years. And I want to give out the correct phone number, 252-9700, available Monday through Friday, figgardencounseling.com if you have any questions. And I wish you would come back.
I would love to.
All right.
Thanks very much, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you,
Happy New Year to everybody out there, too.
Thanks, Peter. All right, Happy New Year to all. We'll be back here with a live program on Friday. Doug Vagum is going to be along talking about the water rates possibly going up here in the city of Fresno. Happy New Year. Stay safe. See you back here on 2015 on Friday.